I know my YouTube analytics well enough to know that probably about half or so of my demographic of people who watch these videos are women. So, ladies out there, take a hike. This one's for the boys today. I just want to, some of this stuff will probably carry over and apply, but so I talk especially to the young, single Catholic men, brothers, people like me in this state of life. Just some of the stuff, like personal reflections, things that I've been able to notice, like patterns and things about myself in this state of life, and I'm sure stuff that most other young single Catholic men struggle with. A lot of this is coming around vocation, like for myself in this state where my vocational discernment is yet a story to be written, and for whatever that is for you, maybe a place to start is just that the temptation for young single Catholic men is to prolong this perpetual bachelorhood or this singleness. And I just want to start by saying that there will always be a sense for you, brother, you who's watching this, if you're a young single Catholic man. There will always be this sense of dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment until you have entered into your vocation. That a vocation is the place that God has given you and me to pour ourselves out in love, to give ourselves in love to another, and this is where we find our fulfillment. So especially if you are seriously seeking the Lord, if you're starting to be a disciple of Jesus Christ and you've received the love of Jesus, that should be an overflowing love in your heart. That should be, I like to call this auto-regenerative love. That it's a love that you receive that can't help but automatically give life to another, to be poured out. It's a love that can't be contained. So if you've authentically received that, if you love Jesus, you've experienced the love that he's given you, you're just ardent in your prayer life and the sacraments, and you're just receiving grace and love from the Lord, then it should be the case for you that if you are a young single Catholic man, that you should ache and long to give that love away. This is the place where we become fulfilled. It's entering ultimately into a vocation where we can give ourselves away in love. So we find ourselves in this sense, in this gift of self, pouring ourselves out in love to another, because this is the place that we are more conformed to Jesus. Jesus who says, no man has greater love than this, but to give his life for his friends. And it's the place, our vocation is a specific place where we where the Lord gives to us a bride, someone specific, a spouse, to give spousal love. The spousal love that the Lord gives to us that overflows in us to another, where we have received the heart of the Father and project the heart of the Father and give that to our spouse, be it the church as the bride of Christ, as a priest or religious, or be it in a family, to a wife and to kids. So I just want to start by saying, if you are a young single Catholic man, then the step that needs to be taken for you to find fulfillment and giving yourself away in love is to pursue your vocation, to discern your vocation. And really, what needs to be done for us as men, vocational discernment is active. It's this active move where I need to pursue something. And I just made a video the other day about freedom and choosing and illusions of freedom, but discernment is an active discernment towards a choice, and moving towards that choice gives us a greater freedom to love. So to enter into our vocation is the place that we're going to find fulfillment in giving ourselves away in love, and it's an active move for us as men. To start taking moves towards marriage and family, or priesthood or religious life, into one of those two vocations. But here's something that I've found for myself that I think is one of the biggest ways that the devil tries to tear us down in vocational discernment is loneliness and isolation. Loneliness and isolation is the devil's playground. It's the place that he is going to speak lies. He speaks lies into me, will speak lies into your heart in the process of discerning vocation. And I've seen this on both ends in moving towards either one of the vocations. So if it's that you've decided that you're going to actively pursue religious life or priesthood, in that period of time, before you enter into seminary, before you enter into intentional community with brothers, what can often happen is that religious life or priesthood is a vocation that is kind of like away from the world and more oriented towards solitude with the Lord. Instead of kind of relationship with other people, it's deeper relationship with the Lord. So what can often be the case is a man will enter into, I've seen this for myself, I've entered more into this solitude and I've drawn away from the world, and I've then put myself into a place of more isolation. And that is a place where I lack the encouragement needed, I lack the accountability needed, I lack the brotherhood needed to actually authentically discern my vocation and to do it well. So, and this is the place where if I begin to do that, I begin to isolate myself a little more, get away from the world, get away from other people, lacking encouragement and lacking accountability, then the devil can come and he can play his games and tell his lies in his playground of isolation and loneliness, which begins to creep in, and it's something that I have brought upon myself. On the flip side, on the other end, because I've seen this on the other end too, whereas maybe pursuing religious life or priesthood, you begin to separate yourself from the world a little bit and you bring about loneliness and isolation for yourselves. On the flip side, I've seen that the pursuit of, if I'm not going to pursue that, I'm going to pursue dating or the pursuit of marriage and family, in that period where I'm still a single dude and I'm looking to actively find someone to date and to pursue in marriage, that period of time will be more in the world and focused on relationship with other people and being more social. And what might happen there is then there feels this increased pressure to be around other people so that you can find someone to be a partner. And then when you do have time by yourself, then maybe this guilt and this shame begins to weigh on you, and you begin to feel loneliness even more because there's this pressure to find someone. And when I don't have a partner yet, then the loneliness feels even heavier. So whenever you have time by yourself, isolation, loneliness feels heavy. The devil comes in, tells his lies, and plays his games. So we see it on both sides that either way, that isolation and loneliness, it can be a difficult place for us to authentically discern a vocation. If it's religious life and the priesthood, and you begin to separate yourself from the world a little bit, enter into solitude with the Lord, then maybe you fall into the trap of isolating yourself without brotherhood, without encouragement and accountability, and the devil can spew his lies, play his games. Or on the other end, when you're trying to actively pursue a romantic relationship, entering into more relationship with other people, spending a lot more of your time socially, and just like hoping and praying and searching for someone to be a partner, when you don't have that and when you're by yourself, then the loneliness and the isolation just feels heavier. There's this guilt and the shame that comes in. Anytime when you're by yourself and you begin to like lose the ability to be by yourself with the Lord, and you begin to lose that solitude. So anytime that you're by yourself, then you lose the ability to do it. The devil comes in, spews his lies, plays his games, and breathes this lie of loneliness and isolation into that time that you otherwise would have been able to spend normally with the Lord. How do you combat this? That the devil, one of the number one tricks that he is going to use to play on you in your period as a single young Catholic man of isolation and loneliness, the answer is brothers. That we need brothers, that we need men around us. We need strong relationships and people to encourage us, to build us up, to keep us accountable, so that isolation can't so much be a factor for us. So when you enter into seminary, this is why, seminarians live together. They have brotherhood. They have like deep brotherhood. And it's people to build each other up. When you enter into dating and moving towards marriage, you have a partner. So you start to experience some of that belonging. There's less of that isolation. So the more that you move towards, hopefully you're entering into deeper relationship. But in this period of singleness, it's so easy if you're not intentional enough that you lack relationship, you lack belonging, and you feel lonely and isolated. And this is the place where the devil can do serious damage. So what we need, brothers, is each other. As we need to reach out to each other and to be intentional with each other. Because guys have this tendency, I know I have this tendency to be like kind of John Wayne. I can do it myself, pull myself up by the bootstraps. I don't need brothers to hold me accountable. I'm a strong, independent man. I can do it all on my own. But the fact is that we can't. I'm too weak for that. Maybe you are too. So we need each other. We need brothers to hold each other accountable, to build each other up, and to walk with each other, especially in the singleness, because it can be lonely. and to authentically discern our vocation, to actually seek out what the Lord has in store for us, and to hear his voice well, and to walk in the way, in the path that he has in store for us. It's hard to walk that path alone. It's really hard to walk that path alone and to zone out the lies that the devil will try to speak, because the more isolated we are, the easier it is for him to speak those lies. So if we have strong people who are encouraging us and drawing us deeper into the Lord, virtuous relationships, people running beside us, they can fend off those lies side by side with us as the devil tries to buffet us from all sides. If we have brothers running on each side of us to play some defense, to pray with us and for us, then everything becomes clearer and we can more genuinely and authentically discern the Lord's voice and his will for our lives. So if there's maybe 4 things that we talked about here today, is 1, is brother, you and I, as young single Catholic men, we were created to give ourselves away in love, and this is the vocation that the Lord has for us. It's the place to give ourselves away in love. How we get there is active. Second thing is it's active. It's this movement towards a pursuit. That we are pursuing a woman or relationship towards marriage, or we are pursuing what the Lord has for us in religious life and priesthood. So it's an active discernment. But what the devil's going to do is he's going to try to trap us with lies and isolation, places of isolation and places of loneliness. So what we need, 4th thing, is to combat that as brothers. We need strong relationships, people to run side by side with. So brothers, let's take up this call to enter into a vocation, because what's going to change the world is young men like you and me entered into the vocation and giving ourselves away in love, virtuously and authentically striving for heaven in whatever place the Lord has destined for you and me. So, praying for you and pray for me as we figure out what this looks like, so that we might give ourselves away in love. By doing that, and whatever it is, we're going to change the world.